He never expected the past to find him on a cold, quiet morning, certainly not lying curled up beside his horse like a forgotten shadow. But that's exactly how the story begins, and if you're watching this right now, stay with me until the end, because the way it all unfolds will leave you thinking about second chances, fate, and the strange ways love circles back into our lives. And if you enjoy stories like this, remember to like this video and subscribe, because more emotional tales are coming your way. It was just after dawn when Elijah Turner, a solitary rancher known for speaking more to his horses than to people, stepped out of his barn and froze. His chestnut stallion, Dakota, stood unusually still, ears perked toward a small shape curled against his front legs. Elijah's boots crunched against the frost as he approached, confusion tightening in his stomach. A woman. Barely awake. Wrapped in a thin shawl, hair tangled by the night wind, cheeks swollen from crying. She was young, too young to look that tired. And there was something in the way she held herself, even asleep, that made Elijah's breath slow, as if she had been running for miles emotionally, not just physically. Dakota lowered his head toward her protectively, as though he had chosen to watch over her. Elijah knelt beside her, ready to speak, to ask who she was and why she'd collapsed at his ranch of all places. But before he could say a word, her lips trembled and she whispered a name that left him petrified. Lydia. Elijah's world stopped. Lydia was his late wife, gone 3 winters now. Nobody on this side of the mountains even said her name anymore. When he did hear it, it was usually in his dreams, never from a stranger half asleep beside his horse. He felt the air thin around him, memories rushing forward with a force that nearly knocked him off balance. The woman slowly opened her eyes. When she saw him, fear flashed, then confusion, then relief so deep it made her expression crumble. "I'm sorry," she whispered, pulling herself up. "I shouldn't be here. I didn't know where else to go." Elijah, still shaken by the sound of his wife's name coming from this fragile stranger, forced himself to soften his voice. "You're freezing. Come inside. Dakota doesn't let just anyone sleep beside him. That's enough reason to help you." She hesitated, then nodded. Her name was Clara. And she was a widow too. Inside the warm kitchen, between sips of hot broth, she told her story. Clara's husband had died protecting their small homestead from bandits. The land was taken, her belongings stolen. She'd been walking for days, looking for work, shelter, anything. She hadn't meant to fall asleep beside Elijah's horse. She'd only meant to rest. But when he asked about whispering Lydia's name, Clara's hands trembled around the cup. "I dreamed," she said, voice barely audible. "A woman with kind eyes. Dark hair braided with blue ribbon. She told me to come here. She said, 'He will help you. You'll help each other.'" Elijah felt something deep inside him crack open. Lydia used to braid her hair with blue ribbon. He wanted to reject the idea, too strange, too impossible. But grief does unusual things to the heart. And Elijah felt, for the first time in years, that maybe he wasn't completely alone. Over the next weeks, Clara worked around the ranch, refusing charity. She repaired fences, gathered wood, and fed the horses with careful hands. Elijah saw how gently she moved, how fiercely she pushed herself, how much loss she carried but tried to hide. One night, while a storm rattled the windows, Elijah found her sitting by the fire, holding a worn locket. Inside was a faded drawing, her husband, smiling in charcoal lines. "Do you miss her?" Clara asked quietly, staring into the flames. "Every day," Elijah answered. "But the ache is softer now." She nodded. "Mine isn't soft yet." "Pain doesn't stay forever," he said. "It changes shape." Their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them, recognition, honesty, a thin thread of understanding tied by shared grief. But healing doesn't come without struggle. Clara's past soon returned in the form of two men who rode into the valley looking for her. The same men who'd taken her home. Elijah's jaw tightened. He wasn't going to lose someone again. When the men demanded Clara back, claiming she owed them, Elijah stepped in front of her, eyes hard and voice steady. She doesn't belong to you. And you won't touch her. The standoff stretched like a pulled wire. Dakota snorted, stepping closer to Elijah's side. Clara gripped Elijah's coat from behind, trembling not from fear but from the memory of being powerless. But Elijah wasn't powerless. He stood firm. The men backed off eventually, realizing they were outnumbered by Elijah's resolve, and Dakota's kick, which could break bones. They left the ranch border, muttering threats into the wind. When they were gone, Clara broke down, not from fear but from relief so heavy it broke her legs. Elijah caught her before she collapsed. "You're safe," he murmured. "As long as you're here, you're safe." And she believed him. Spring arrived slowly, like a shy guest. Snow melted into rivers and grass returned to the hills. Clara's laughter, something Elijah thought he'd never hear, filled the ranch one morning as she chased a runaway chicken through the yard. Elijah realized then, the ranch felt alive again. One evening, Clara stood beside Dakota in the pasture. Elijah approached quietly, hands in his pockets. Clara stroked the horse's mane and said, without looking up, "I think Lydia brought me here. I think she knew we were both lost." Elijah swallowed hard. Maybe she wanted us to find a way to live again. Clara finally turned to him, eyes warm, no longer shadowed by fear. "Elijah, do you think we can build something new? Something that doesn't erase the past, but grows from it?" He reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I think we already have," he said. The sun dipped behind the hills, turning the sky gold as the two of them stood together, two broken hearts that had learned to beat again, side by side. And so, if you've stayed with this story until the end, remember this: sometimes the person fate sends isn't meant to replace what you lost, but to help you heal. To guide you back into the light you thought you'd never see again. If this touched your heart, hit the like button and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us all how powerful hope can be.